Controversial Democratic Representatives Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib are believed to be touching down here in Israel tomorrow, despite calls for them to be stopped from visiting, with many, including US President Donald Trump, saying that they spruik anti-Israel rhetoric. Now, the pair are expected to be joined by another unnamed person and are hoping to visit Jerusalem, Hebron, Bethlehem and Ramallah. Now, just a few weeks ago, Trump urged Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to use Israel's anti-BDS law to stop them from entering. But last month, Israel's ambassador to the US, Ron Dermer, came out to say that out of respect for the US Congress and the great alliance between Israel and America, we will not deny entry to any member of Congress into Israel. And for more on this story, let's bring in our senior international affairs correspondent, Owen Alterman. Owen, we are hearing reports coming in at this hour from the Washington Post, which are saying that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu may actually consider not allowing them to come here to Israel. Tell me, what would that be like? What would be the repercussions there?
Well, Sarah, you're absolutely right. These reports just coming in over the course of the last hour from the Washington Post in the U.S. and from a number of Israeli media outlets as well. What are the reports? That Prime Minister Netanyahu had a session last night with the heads of the National Security Council and other agencies to talk about potentially barring entry to Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and whoever this third mystery member of Congress is potentially, again, on the basis of Israel's BDS law that allows the authorities here in Israel to bar entry to anyone who has supported boycott and divestment and sanctions movements against Israel, but doesn't force them to do so. They can let them in if they want to. That was exactly what Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Ron Dermer, has said Israel will do, will allow them entry. And Sarah, it's easy to understand why. Just imagine what the scene would look like, or maybe will look like, if come tomorrow, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar land at Ben Gurion Airport, try to present their passports to enter the country, and are then taken away by authorities and put back onto an airplane. How that would reflect on Israel's image overseas. And that's why, from the time that the story broke that these two very controversial members of Congress were going to come to Israel, there has been a consensus on two things. Number one, a consensus here in Israel that these two members of Congress are anti-Israel, are hostile to Israel. Sarah, even on the Israeli left, it's hard to find someone who will say that these are somehow friends of Israel who are simply critical. They are seen as hostile, but on the other hand, a wall-to-wall consensus, not only on the left, but also on the right, not only necessarily in the public, but also among experts and policymakers, that the best option for Israel, or at least the least bad option, is to let them in, to avoid those kinds of scenes at the airport where they're a martyr. That's been the consensus up until now, but Donald Trump has been asking for something else. That seems to have caused this meeting last night that Benjamin Netanyahu convened, and maybe a 180 shift by the Israeli establishment to bar them entry tomorrow. That would be a huge story.